So what's up guys, thank you for clicking on the video. So in this one we are going to talk about C3. I've had a video posted about this on my channel, but there was a copyright issue and I basically just did a little short driving kind of video. And I really wanted to tell the story about this car. So in this one, you're going to see a car that basically was taken from burned ashes, just a wreck in a junkyard, restored and put back on the racetrack. And we're going to bring in the new year with a few updates. So you're watching Night Drive TV.
My name is Damian Knight, and I've built cars professionally for nearly 20 years, but I started out homeless at 17 in the murdering streets of New Orleans. My dreams to build fast cars pushed me to build a life from nothing, and 10 years later, I was the head of a multi-million-dollar company. But it all went bad. Follow me as I continue my journey through our automotive culture, explore great driving roads, and find my way back into the game on Night Drive TV.
So that's right folks, we are about to the new year, lots of changes coming, lots of evolution here. I'm really focused on Night Drive TV, so I talked about a little bit of that in my subs only video. You may have caught it. If not, I'm just going to tell you, I'm going to try some live shows here shortly. I'm going to try kind of a few concepts to see what can happen, so keep an eye out for that. But in this one, I'm going to talk about a really special car and a special event for me. It was something I'll never forget, and frankly, it's why I wanted to make a video. Some of these videos, I make because I know they're good for clicks and people really love them, but this one's kind of for me because I just enjoy kind of looking back on this day. So as a Corvette guy, you may relate. So essentially, what had happened is that I had come into possession of a 1969 blue Corvette through kind of a partnership with a guy that had found the car in a junkyard, and he restored it over a number of years, but it ended up having a really interesting story, and it's what led to Road America in August of 2011. So essentially, before I kind of get into the story, I'm going to tell you a little bit about the car. Essentially, this car was built in 1971 by a guy who some people on the forum may know is Bob Spergel. He owns House of Wheels. I just found this out actually, but he built and caged the car, and he did it with a guy named Will Schreiber, I believe it was. And he raced it all up in the Northeast, Pocono, Lime Rock, a bunch of different events. Actually ended up taking it to Daytona. And interestingly, in 1972, the Daytona 24 Hours was actually a 6-hour race. A lot of pressure from the FIA due to longevity of certain engines. They say it was a fuel crunch, lots of different reasons, but basically it was the 6 hours of Daytona, kind of a rare instance. But the car did race in that event, and so it has some very significant history. Bob Spergel himself told me that the car had ended up rolling in the event or something like that, and basically he ended up selling it to a man named Wiley Duran. And Wiley Duran and a few other guys raced this car all through the 70s into the 80s, and I'm talking next to Bondurant, Skip Barber. This car then appeared in a book called Corvette Thunder, which was Dick Goldstrand's book about Corvette racing and the history of all these significant Corvette race cars. So here this car is, which had quite a storied history. It raced for over 15 years. It ended up being basically in a body shop to get a respray, and the body shop burned down around it, and there was no insurance. So the guy that I knew, he ended up, he was a restoration guy. He was into Shelbys and Corvettes and things like that. He ended up finding the car with a cage in a junkyard, and it was burned down. It was covered in weeds. And the owner of the junkyard basically had kind of told him, there is logbooks somewhere. I think you could probably track them down. It may be a car worth looking at. So that's kind of how this evolved. He ended up tracking down the logbooks, matched it to the cage, and identifying this pretty history heavy type of race car that actually had been in some really significant events. So essentially what happened was we partnered on the vehicle, and I was going to do the shakedown, basically do some of the engine tuning. He had finished the body and sprayed it in Le Mans blue to match what was in Dick Goldstrand's book from 1974, kind of put the car back to that livery for the most part. The idea was that we were going to take the car to Road America, and there was going to be an event which was going to be the rededication of the Corvette Bridge. And this basically caused a number of different agencies to come together to try and take this iconic photo. It was an American Lemans Series weekend, which the C6Rs were racing in, the factory-supported Corvettes. And so it's already a significant race weekend in that way, but then all these historical Corvettes came, and I was able to attend because of the car that I was in possession of. We go there, they have a number of HPDEs during the weekend and practice sessions. I get to take the car out, kind of take it through its shakedown, but it was you know, purely fun to drive the car. Very light, very stripped down, very functional race car for the most part, but did some laps that weekend, all basically culminated to Sunday. And Sunday, after the ALMS race was over, basically all these cars gathered, and we're talking significant cars from the C5Rs that were at Le Mans, C6Rs, the old GT1 cars with the 7-liter, significant SCCA cars, and even a Le Mans car from the 1960 Briggs Cunningham cars. So I mean, you had all these just greats from history all assembled in this one place. So they kind of tasked us with, look, everybody fire your car up, and we're going to basically take you backwards around the circuit, and we're going to come from under the Corvette bridge, get some photos, and assemble. So that's what we did. And so here I get in this car, and it's very significant to drive in something that has seen, is much older than I was, obviously, and it has seen so many different environments and racetracks. And even though, yes, it is just the frame and the suspension, there wasn't much of a race car. That's kind of the nature of these vintage cars. They get wrecked and rolled, and multiple bodies get put on them, but essentially the core was still there. And to think about, this car has gone down, the track at Daytona and multiple times, and it has beaten Greenwood and Skip Barber and things like that. It was quite a moment for me. And I remember driving down the track with using my cell phone as video, and just thinking about my life personally, thinking about the times where I'd lived in a car for a couple years when I was young and really didn't think I'd have anything in life, didn't think I'd get anywhere. And here, only a year after getting my first Corvette, which I made a video about only a couple weeks ago, here a year after that, I'm in this scenario, one of the ultimate Corvette car guy events that there ever was. And it was just a real moment for me, real surreal to drive down the road and think about it. And it was just something that I watched the video, and I can tell you, if you ever go to car events, take video, because it's more than photos. It really allows you to feel that moment again. And that's why I was so thankful that even in some of the videos, which were shaky, I feel so grateful to have them, because I get to think back and just really, I can remember how I felt in that moment. It was very significant for me. So, we basically come up to the Corvette bridge. It's all these cars are assembled, and I have like the C6R GT1 7-liter car like idling next to me, and some of these big block monsters that raced in the Camel GT series. And Jan Hyde, who runs the Registry of Corvette Racecars, he's running around and kind of directing us, and fans are assembled because this was an ALMS weekend, and there were thousands of people here. And it was amazing to come down that hillside, and I had a guy taking photos for me that weekend, a friend of mine, and we kind of all slowly make our way down the hill, and all these cars are just present, and it was just an amazing sight to see. I was the youngest guy there, probably about like 10 years it seemed like, but it was just an awesome opportunity. And I really, I kind of like had mixed feelings about C3s over the years as a Corvette guy. I grew up in high school, the C4 was the car for me, but I always kind of appreciated the late 70s cars, to be honest. I liked that last iteration of the C3, but that was the weakest, worst version, the lowest horsepower, a lot of them automatics. Not many people love them that like C3s, but this car really brought me on board with C3s. I will never, forget just feeling like, man, this car is awesome. You know what I mean? It was just such a great experience. And so, yeah, we took this great photo, and it's a photo that will go down in history. And I get to look at that picture and know that, I was there, and I was behind the scenes. So to the guys like Jan Hyde and all the others that Tony De Lorenzo, I know, and a few other people. He helped me get a hotel, actually, Tony De Lorenzo. he had a couple of hotel rooms and said, hey, I have an extra one if you need it. So, I'm so thankful that those guys dedicate themselves to, keeping this registry alive and keeping these memories, and basically trying their best to document and keep Corvette history alive. But it was a heck of an event, and it was something I'll never forget. And luckily there at the end, lo and behold, I get to meet Dick Goldstrand, and you know, in some of my videos, you'll see over my left shoulder, when you're looking at the video, it's actually over my right, but there's a poster called The Quest, and it's a movie about Chip Miller and things when they get the old Briggs Cunningham car, the number 3, I think it is. That debuted there, and also Dick Goldstrand was there. So he signed a book to me, Corvette Thunder. I showed him some details on the car, some things about it. So it was a great opportunity. I got to meet Dick Goldstrand. He's obviously no longer with us, but you know, just a pivotal guy in the history of Corvette. So all in all, amazing weekend. Won't ever forget it. And hope you enjoyed the video, guys. So catch me on the next one. Check out some of those live videos I'm going to be doing. Keep an eye out for those. I hope you had a great holiday and Happy New Year, because I'm getting this up right before the New Year. So, all right, guys, keep on going. You're watching Night Drive TV. Thank you very much. I'll see you on the next one.